of Ramose and his wife Hatnefret, TT 55, Sheikh Abdel Gurna, Luxor, Egypt, North Africa. Now, this is an 18th dynasty tomb, and Ramose worked for two kings. He was a vizier for Amunhotep III and Amunhotep IV, who later became Akhenaten. Ramose was an able politician and vizier. His father was mayor of Memphis and his brother was the high steward of Memphis. Now, the tomb was quarried out of the side of Sheikh Abdel Gurna in the 18th dynasty. By the 20th dynasty, the ceiling had collapsed in the main hall. Many have worked on this tomb in modern times. There have been many attempts to remove the debris after the roof collapsed. You can imagine, with thousands of years of debris falling down into the tomb and being pushed in all of the areas of the tomb. The first attempt to clear the tomb was in 1879 by Henry William Villiers Stewart. What a lovely name that is. He had another go at it 3 years later in 1882. Then in 1884 to 85, Gaston Maspero had a go at clearing the debris. In 1904, Arthur Weigel and Robert Mund had a go, followed by Walter Emery and Arthur Robert Callender. 3 years of trying to clear this tomb. In 1927 to 28, Emile Barize repaired the ceiling and included glass in the ceiling to help visitors see the reliefs better. Do you remember Norman de Garris Davis? Well, in 1941, he published The Tomb of the Vizier Ramose for the Egypt Exploration Society. Now, remember, Norman had a wife, Nina, and she was an illustrator and she worked very closely with her husband. And most of her work was for the Metropolitan Museum of Art, producing facsimile drawings. She married Norman in 1907. She was 26 and he was 42. They started working in the Theban necropolis in 1907, so literally 3 or 4 months after they got married. Between 1907 and 1941, Nina had produced over 350 facsimiles for the Metropolitan Museum of Art. Wow. Nina and Norman worked at Abydos and Amarna. In 1939, Norman and Nina returned to England, and 2 years later, in 1941, Norman died. He was aged 76, and Nina lived until she was 84, and she passed away in 1965. Others who worked on the tomb with publication and other documentation was Thomas Eric Peat, Harry Burton, who was also the photographer for Howard Carter and Lord Carnarvon on Tutankhamun's tomb, and Geoffrey Sperrell Millam, who was a British architect. When you visit tombs today, please consider all the past hands that have passed through that tomb to clear it, to document it, so that you may enjoy it and understand it. I certainly do. It's not like Indiana Jones, where you go into a tomb, you find the treasure, you've got the pretty girl and you go home. It's years of painstaking, hard work. As they sifted through that debris, it wasn't just get in there with a spade or a shovel and start pulling it out. Everything had to be inspected before it was finally thrown away, just to recover all the tiny fine splinters of wood, plaster, linen and all that sort of thing was all involved in the debris, and all had to be sorted, which is why it took so long. Now, the tomb was cut, and then the walls were smoothed. The type of relief that was used was bas relief, so it was raised from the wall. Well, This is 18th Dynasty. They didn't plaster the walls first, not a chance. This is all done on the natural rock face of Sheikh Abdel Gurna. On the death of Akhenaten, the king's names were removed from this tomb and his images were plastered over. Now that wasn't probably done by Ramose himself, he probably died by that time, but maybe it was members of his family. So if we have a look at the plan, you can see where the ceiling collapsed, and Emil did a really good job in rebuilding the ceiling and including glassing, so you get some natural light inside the tomb. He didn't recreate the tomb to make it dark. He used the advantage of putting in that glass, and I think it was a really good idea. When they cut the tomb, you can imagine chipping it out. You're going to get all these bulging bits. Then come in the finishers and they rubbing down those walls. Now I know it's shale, it's not hard stone, but wow, that's all done by hand. Then the artisan comes along and he draws out the pictures. They remove the material around the line work so it becomes a bas relief, and then finally it's decorated. Now a lot of people have looked at these reliefs and have suggested that not all of them were going to be actually painted, that there probably wasn't enough time. Remember, there is a custom in Egypt that you cut the tomb, especially with royal tombs, and that when the king died or the person died, they started decorating it. So maybe that's why only parts of the tomb are actually decorated with paint, of course. So let's have a look at the map. Number 1. So you've got the consecration of offerings to make these offerings eternal. Now what you're looking at is magic. The belief that if you have these images with the magical writing, it will happen, it will be eternal. So that's what you're looking at. You're not just looking at art, you're looking at magic. Number 3 are the banqueting scenes. So what do you want to do in the afterlife? You want all your friends round, you want your kids round, you want to have, this is like an ancient Egyptian barbecue. Okay, in our civilization, we have barbecues in warm weather, we have dinner parties in the winter. In their world, they enjoyed banqueting. At number 5 is Amunhotep IV, before he became Akhenaten, when the king was still ruling from the capital of Waset, Thebes, Luxor, and he hadn't declared himself as the Akhenaten yet. Number 6, he had declared himself as Akhenaten and was preparing to leave Waset. Now, Ramose had invested a lot of time in this tomb, probably 8 years by then, and there was no way he was going to abandon it. So he got the artisans to start including this new art, this new Amana art in his tomb. The funeral procession. Now, if you look at the funeral procession, the idea was to have that red border of energy at the top of the wall. Now, most probably that would have been all round the tomb, but for some reason it was never decorated in that fashion. You can see all the individuals in the funeral procession have all been painted, making it very vibrant, very alive. So they're bringing all the goodies for the funeral. And those goodies are going to supplement Ramose and his wife as they make that journey through the duat every night to go to the afterlife and come back to their tomb. Here we have the purification of Ramose. So if you have a look around him, he's got that water, that purifying water to give him life, to give his spirit life. So you're not looking at physical people here, you're looking at spiritual people. The Sem priest who carries out the ritual of the opening of the mouth and the burial so they can inherit the property of the estate. So the Sem priest was usually the eldest son, and he is a priest for the day to carry out this funeral. So that's it for the tomb of Ramose. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope I've given you some insight into the work of archaeologists and architects and illustrators, all these people that worked on this tomb to enable it to be visited by visitors today. So please press your subscribe button if you liked it, thumbs up, and leave any comments. Comments are nice. It's a way that we can connect. Okay, so take care. Bye for now. See you soon.